You read it everywhere these days, on television news channels, in newspaper headlines, on social media timelines. Putin is India's all-weather ally. It's become like a mantra.
Russia has been a time-tested partner.
We have always had a huge amount of trust on Russia, and perhaps that is why this visit is very important.
But the question is, why and where it all began? Why in a world where geopolitical partnerships shift with the winds of change, does Russia remains unmoved in its commitments to India? Well, today we are going to tell you why this phrase exactly exists and why even now, amid the turbulence stirred by the United States President Donald Trump, it remains as true as it ever was. Well, the answer lies not in the recent headlines, but in a quarter-century-long commitment that began with Putin's visit to Delhi in the winters of December 2000. That's the point when this partnership began. It was December 2000. The world was different then. New Delhi was still recovering from the nuclear test stigma, the nuclear variant tag, that the global community had slapped on India just 18 months earlier. The Pokhran test of May 1998 had isolated the country, brought sanctions and made India a variant in the international community. Countries were cautious, partnerships were strained. But then, something extraordinary happened. A 47-year-old former KGB officer, newly sworn in as Russia's president, made a calculated decision. Vladimir Putin landed in winter-soaked Delhi to breathe new life into what many thought was a dying friendship. The optics were perfect. Putin at Parliament, offering a namaste, making the right diplomatic noises about Kashmir, speaking of India's magic and charm. But here's where it gets interesting. Amid the turbulence stirred by the US under Donald Trump, we see history repeating itself with a different flavor. Then Putin was arriving to rescue a friendship. Now he stands yet again as India's anchor when the world around it grows uncertain. But back in 2000, the real statement wasn't made in the parliament. It was made in the maximum city, Mumbai. Especially, it was made at the Bhabha Atomic Research Center. This was Putin's nuclear nudge. Subtle, unmistakable, and precisely calculated. While other world leaders maintained distance from India's nuclear program, Putin boarded a flight to Mumbai and posted a photograph from that very facility. Fast forward to today, the world has changed dramatically. The nuclear variant tag is gone. India is now a nuclear power with global recognition. Yet Putin's role hasn't diminished. It has evolved with time. While Trump threatens tariffs, sanctions, and geopolitical pressure, while the US recalibrates its approach to India, Russia remains steady. The same consistency Putin demonstrated in 2000 when he raised diplomatic backlash to acknowledge India's nuclear test. He demonstrated today by maintaining defense partnerships, energy cooperation, and strategic alignment when other nations hesitate. Well, what sealed Putin's commitment in 2000 wasn't rhetoric, it was concrete action. India finalized contracts for 310 Russian T-90 tanks. The licensed production of Su-30 fighter aircraft was agreed upon. The Russian Navy offered India the Admiral Gorshkov, which would later become INS Vikramaditya. These weren't just symbolic gestures. These were the foundations of the military-industrial partnership that would sustain decades of cooperation between the two nations. Trade mechanisms were revitalized, a formal strategic partnership was framed yet again. In a moment when India was vulnerable, Russia invested. And till today, that investment continues. While Western partners scrutinize India's foreign policy, question its stance on Ukraine, or impose conditions on trade, Russia maintains what former President K.R. Narayanan said, the greatest friend of India. The same patience Putin demonstrated when he walked through the Taj Mahal, the same quiet support he signaled at the BARC continues to undergird the partnership. When the world watches India navigate between competing powers, when geopolitical pressures mount, Russia doesn't demand, Russia stands. In fact, that 2000 visit that began with a tribute to Mahatma Gandhi at Rajghat and ended with Putin's presence and India's nuclear heart established a principle that has endured for a quarter century. Russia sees India as not a temporary partner to be leveraged, but as an enduring ally worth investing with. Well, that's why Putin is India's all-weather ally, not because of flowery words or ceremonial visits, but because when it mattered the most in 2000, when India was isolated, and today, when India faces renewed pressures, Russia has remained unmoved and unshakable. The photographs at BARC told that story then, and the continued partnerships tell it today. And that, viewers, is a consistency the world rarely sees anymore in the world of geopolitics.